Ladies and gentlemen, Violent Games here. Today I wanted to have another general games discussion with you, and the topic that I want to present to you today is objective markers, and how I think they're actually harming modern video games, especially RPGs and open world games. So, the reason that I'm talking about this in the first place is that there was a discussion that actually occurred in my comments section about this very topic. It wasn't really directly about objective markers per se, but let me just explain. So, it was in one of my Dishonored 2 guides. Someone had recently purchased the game and they posted a comment saying how could they get the most from this game. A few people recommended the harder difficulty settings, which is definitely warranted, especially because of how overpowered you can get in Dishonored 2. But someone actually recommended turning off objective markers. And this thing really piqued my interest. One, because I didn't know you could. I didn't really look through the menus of the game. I was just playing with the powers, really. But you can actually go into the menu and turn off objective markers. And they basically made the argument that the way you interface with the world is going to be overall better. So, months later, Dishonored Death of the Outsider comes out, and I actually do this. I turn off objective markers, and oh my gosh, guys, it's like night and day. It just made the game so much better that the entire way I interacted with this game had completely changed for the better. So I'm just going to go over some points with you guys of why I think objective markers are kind of harming the industry, and why turning them off might ultimately be the best thing if you have the option. Alright, so my first point of why you should turn off objective markers if you get the option is that the journey towards an objective feels a lot more organic. It's definitely your experience. How you get to an objective is completely up to you. The game is not offering you any information on how to get to a certain objective. So do you just want to explore the map until you find the objective using context clues, or do you want to find a physical map within the game to actually navigate your way through alleyways and stuff? Do you actually want to take certain routes, not based on what's just the quickest, but what's the most practical? Like, for example, you could take a route that's a bit more stealthy. You can take a more vertical route if you want to kind of get away from certain obstacles in your path. It just makes the journey a lot more organic feeling. It makes you feel like you are making this experience what it is, instead of the game just kind of giving you a little waypoint and you just kind of autopilot GPS your way through the game till you just get to the next objective and just focus on doing nothing but killing baddies. So I feel like turning off the objective marker definitely makes the journey to the objective that much better. The next point I like to bring up is that turning off objective markers is going to encourage overall exploration. This is really good for your games, because think about it, guys. In the modern era, games are not cheap. Games range from anywhere from 30 to 60 bucks, and you want to get as much time out of it as possible. Exploration is going to allow you to experience more content within the game, and it's also going to kind of pad out the game's length a little bit for you. So you're kind of getting more bang for your buck when you turn off objective markers. Alright, so this next point is probably going to blow your mind just a little bit, in that turning off objective markers potentially will make you smarter. And I'm almost 100% certain of this because of a study that was actually recently done. The way I came across the study was actually via another YouTuber, B Dobbins for the win. I highly encourage you to check out his video because it's talking about gamer overall mental health and how games can be affecting our brains. And if we're going to play and consume a lot of video games, we should educate ourselves as much as possible when it comes to these certain subject matters. So I highly encourage you to check that out. So basically, the premise of this study is they studied a group of gamers across the spectrum. So they studied some people who were doing first-person shooters, generic ones like Call of Duty and Destiny. Then they studied people who played Mario and other puzzler games. And they found that people who played the generic first-person shooters had underdeveloped hippocampuses, in the sense that the gray matter in their brains was a lot less present. If you guys don't know, gray matter is kind of what's responsible for navigation, and having less gray matter in your brain makes you more susceptible to things like anxiety and depression. So having a lot of gray matter in your brain is really good for you, and if you neglect that by playing a bunch of mindless shooters all the time and consuming a lot of media like television, then you're actually a lot more susceptible to multiple health problems because your mood's just going to be terrible. So the reason I feel that turning off objective markers is going to make you smarter is because you're going to have to utilize problem-solving factories within your brain to actually get to certain points within any particular game. So in Death of the Outsider, the way I discovered that my target was even Ivan Jacoby in the first place is because I actually went into this tattoo parlor and read this manifest of all these people who are getting these occult tattoos to get into this faction club or whatever it was. And then it told me exactly where he was in what particular district. I didn't have the game point that out to me or even tell me where that district was. I then had to look at a physical map in-game to figure out where this certain area in this district was, and then I planned accordingly to go to that objective. If I hadn't done that, the game would have just pointed me in the right direction and I would have mindlessly went on my way, but I actually had to utilize my own brain power to solve problems within a game. I found it overall more satisfying to do it this way, and if your game's making you think more, it's better for you. That's just how it works. The more you use your brain, the stronger your brain's going to grow. Your brain's kind of like a muscle in that sense. So turning off objective markers, guys, could be good for your overall mental health. So the final reason I think you should turn off those objective markers is because you're going to improve the overall impact and satisfaction of actually finding and completing those objectives. It's not very satisfying to have your hand held throughout the entire experience and having to come to a conclusion because the game just flat out told you. It's a lot more interesting to discover all of this on your own, and I think that's where the satisfaction is definitely derived from, is that sense of discovery. For example, when I was doing the Death of the Outsider game, there was a bank heist mission that has several objectives within the actual heist. The game never directly told me where anything was. It didn't tell me where the office was of the head of the bank, where they were meeting their important client, or how to get the key in that office without being detected. The game didn't tell me where the security office was that I needed to gain access to in order to actually move the suspended vault to a secure location. The game didn't tell me how to get into that security office, and I had to discover all of this on my own using mechanics within the game and using context clues like the name of the floors on the elevator, some of the physical maps that was on a wall. Like, all of this just made the experience that much more satisfying. There was even some optional rooms that I discovered on my own because of some contracts that I found in the mission, and also using some context clues within my environments to figure out how to open those saves. I feel like a problem with a lot of modern games is it feels like they were made for people. I think B. Dobbins even said this in his video, so I'm probably quoting him. It feels like modern games are made for people with brain damage. Like, they're treating us like we're retards or children. And I feel like while it's nice to have a game that's accessible to all audiences, I feel like in order for an adult to get any or to derive any satisfaction from their games, we need to be challenged. Our brain needs to have to overcome a certain obstacle. I'm tired of these brain dead games where I have to press L2 and then the game aims for me, and then I have to just press R2 and then watch them die. It's not satisfying. It's why I got bored of Call of Duty. I feel like Call of Duty is as intelligent as doing the dishes. Again, a B-Dobbs quote. Because you're just aiming and shooting, aiming and shooting, aiming and shooting. There's not a lot of nuance in there. But if you turn off objective markers, you're going to add an additional challenge to your game. You're going to have to think more about things. And I don't understand why games in the modern era are almost encouraged to not make players think. So that's really my final verdict on that. That's all I really have to say on the subject matter. I hope you guys learned something. Let me know if you did. I hope this improves your gameplay experience, guys. It did wonders for mine. I really, really hope that in the future you guys consider, if, especially in RPGs mostly, you guys turn off these objective markers. Find the objective yourself. It's much more satisfying that way. This is Violent Games, signing off.